Hello everyone, this is Karuchan TV. In this video, I am going to talk about my thoughts on SNU after spending 3 years as an international student. Undergraduates at SNU normally have 4 years for the period of study with the exception of majors such as architecture and medicine, within which students are required to take liberal subjects and subjects from their designated major. First of all, let me start off with my thoughts on the studies and what subjects I found it interesting. The top 3 subjects I liked from my liberal are, first, understanding Buddhist philosophy. I would say this was the most interesting, A, because the professor was very considerate and engaging, and B, because the subject itself was very interesting. I liked how the professor actively engaged with the students by not simply reading off the slides, but instead explained to the students. Also, whenever the students raised questions, the professor answered questions as informatively as possible and also modified the slides to interest the students. I would say this class is highly recommended. The second subject is Music of the World. I found the contents of the class highly interesting. Despite this being a music class, the class did not require a high knowledge of music per se, and it was easy to follow the contents. There were quite a lot of assignments, including sound journals as well as reports on the movies, but having the opportunities to get to know different music from around the world and listening to them was definitely very interesting. The third one is reading in classics. Unlike the other 2 subjects aforementioned, this class was a 1-credit class. There was no external assignment apart from reading the text to prepare for the class, so it was very chill. Moreover, the grading was either a pass or a fail, so the grading was also very lenient. I found the class very interesting since we mostly focus on the discussions rather than just reading the text during the class. Next, I will talk about the subjects that I was not really fond of. The first one is The Man and the Universe. The subject per se is very unique and there were a lot to learn from the subject. The professor was very knowledgeable and explained the contents very informatively. And I liked how there were 2 field trips during the class time, and I also liked how I gained a lot of knowledge surrounding astronomy. However, one thing I was overwhelmed was the work demand for this class. The contents were quite math and physics heavy, so I felt that it is quite tricky for non-STEM major students, and I also thought that it can be hard to get good grades. Another class that I thought is difficult is College Writing 1. There was a separate College Writing 1 class specifically for international and exchange students, but the class was entirely taught in Korean. I liked how I got to learn appropriate citation methods and how to structure different writing styles in Korean, such as comparative and argumentative writing. However, I felt that this class can be challenging to international students since the class is only available in Korean and we have to write essays in Korean. But I appreciate how there are separate classes for College Writing 1 for international students and exchange students, and there are also separate class for College Writing 2 for social sciences and natural sciences. One thing that international students might be curious is, are there a lot of classes offered in English? I think it depends on the major. Some major have more English classes compared to others, and it really depends on the major. For liberal classes, there are quite a lot of courses offered in English, but one thing to note is that there are some liberal classes which are mandatory to take but are only available in Korean. The example is college writing classes. Also, regarding English, all students at SNU are required to take a standardized TEPS English exam regardless of the past English exam records. Depending on the TEPS score, you can take different English classes provided by the university. In my case, I took an advanced English class according to my TEPS result. Next, I will talk about the overall life at SNU. Starting off with the housing, I have previously introduced a video on the SNU Global Residence Dormitory for undergraduate students. The other options for the housing are Goshiwon, one rooms, and share houses. For the visa, once you got into Korea as an international student, you will need to apply for a residence card within the span of 3 months. In my case, I applied through a group registration site provided by the university called Hi Korea and got my residence card after approximately a month. I did not have to visit the immigration office separately and apply through online, so it was very convenient. Though they tend to have a certain periods for the group application, which you can kindly check on their websites. Once you got the residence card, the card is valid for 1 to 2 years, and after that, you will need to extend the residence card. Regarding the healthcare, the university provides a free annual health checkup at the clinic nearby the library and the main cafeteria area. I was able to make a reservation through the online website, which is shown on the university website of my SNU. Tuition and scholarships. The tuition fee depends on the college you are enrolled to, and there are 2 registration periods within 1 year. Compared to the universities in the UK or the US, the tuition fee is much more affordable. One thing I appreciate is that they don't separate the tuition fees for the international students with Korean students. The university also provides scholarships for international students. The examples are the Global Talent Scholarships and Study Work Scholarships. Transportation. For transportation on the campus, there are free shuttle buses provided by the university and inner-city buses. The routes that the buses operate are varied depending on the type of buses you take. The example of shuttle buses include buses from the SNU library to the SNU station and vice versa. Food places. At SNU, there are various food places. One of the cafeteria that I would recommend is the main cafeteria near the library. What I like about the cafeteria is that they provide a famous 1,000 won meal for all breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Other food places I would highly recommend on the campus is the 9-ounce burger and the Cafe Lab. 9-ounce burger have delicious burgers and fries as well as the other menus, whilst the Cafe Lab have delicious sandwiches, rice bowls, and cookies.